I study the economy from the perspective of always keeping in mind that the economy is embedded within ecosystems, and I focus in large economies. Once we've talked about degrowth, once we've criticized economic growth, once we've described post-growth and articulated it with post-capitalism, then it opens a whole bunch of challenges. I think something like degrowth is filled with the challenges, to say the least. But I hope we will manage also to see that it's filled with opportunities. What happens when an economy grows? And then, of course, the opposite. Would degrowing an economy be a viable strategy for sustainability? And then opening another question of how do you organize an economy that is remaining in a post-growth stationary state? Recession is basically a growth-based economy that for some external or internal reason doesn't manage to grow. But it's not voluntarily organized, and very often it comes with the social chaos. Degrowth, on the other hand, would be a conscious, anticipated, planned decision to slow down the economy for a specific reason, which is to lighten environmental pressures. So see degrowth as a bit of an emergency brake. You've tried maybe for a very long time to green your economy, you've tried to reduce your footprint, but you did not manage to do that. You have to try something new, and then you plan it so that you can do that in a way that reduces inequality and improves well-being. Every year, the global economy extracts around 100 gigatons of materials, and these go through the economy, and then part of that throughput gets rejected back into nature. When you look at the framework of planetary boundaries, which include not only climate change, but also other environmental thresholds, you realize that country is in a deep state of a shoot. And you realize also that even for climate change, reducing emissions is not enough. You need to reduce them sufficiently fast in order to get back under your ecological ceiling. So these arguments alone suffice to falsify the green growth hypothesis, because when you take into account all the diversity of pressures an economy has on its surrounding ecosystems, there's no country in the world at any period in time that has managed to fully decouple, meaning to produce more without either extracting more or polluting more, or very often both at the same time. But then we need also to go down at the level of individuals, because inequalities when it comes to environmental pressures, they transcend national boundaries. I'm going to drop a concept here that scares many economists. It's the concept of an imperial mode of living. In France, we don't go digging for fossil fuels and cobalt around Paris. We just import it from elsewhere. The goal of decoupling economic growth from anything is obsolete. That's the claim I'm going to develop here. It's obsolete because economic growth as an economic category is obsolete. Economic growth is not progress, it's not innovation, it's not a very qualitative concept of development. The higher you are on that graph, the highest your quality of life in comparison to other countries. The more you're towards the right, the more you have overshot your planetary boundary. And so if we admit that economic growth, the pursuit of economic growth as rich countries is not sustainable anymore, and that also it's nonsensical in terms of well-being, it opens up a whole discussion of how do you rewrite the software of your economy and how do you adapt the hardware. Now we realize that actually we might need different economic systems if we want to achieve different objectives. And when I say what we need to do, it means what do we need to do more and what do we need to undo? Always this dialectical shift of the part of the economy we need to grow, to develop, to see scaled out, scaled up, and the part of the economy we want shut down, slow down, ration down. And that leads me to perhaps the last concept, which is a steady state economy. So the steady state economy is an economy that is embedded within the carrying capacities of its surrounding ecosystems. But I'm afraid that right now, if the goal is to redesign a new game of economy, we cannot start from the bottom. We do need to put all the pieces of the puzzle together in order to just make sure that system as a whole works.